there was no red flags for a lot of these women at that moment because the activity of their friendship was very spiritual usually. We're praying together. We're leading events together. We're going on runs together. We're not doing anything wrong.
Hey there, welcome to Pure Freedom with Dannah Gresh. I'm Dannah, and this is a place for raw and honest conversations about the things shaping our hearts and our homes. Each week, we'll break down today's most complex issues and provide you with biblical truth, freedom stories, and encouragement to follow Jesus faithfully in a culture of confusion. Hey, I'm so glad you're here, friend. You know, speaking of friendship, it's never been more complicated for girls and women. So today we're going to talk about frenemies, toxic dependency, and how unhealthy friendship obsessions can sometimes blur emotional and sexual boundaries. You know, research highlights that 85% of same-sex couples begin their relationships as friendships, and that dynamic is often complicated by intense emotional intimacy in female friendships. That leaves many women confused about what's a platonic relationship or is this emotional? So how do we keep our friendships healthy, life-giving, and rooted in Christ? My friend Kelly Needham is here today to talk about it. She's the author of Friendish. If you don't have a copy of that book, you must get it. The subtitle is Reclaiming Real Friendship in a Culture of Confusion. She and her husband, Jimmy, are the hosts of the Clearly podcast, tackling the tough topics of life with biblical truth. Kelly's also a mom with 4 gorgeous children, 2 boys, 2 girls. And a couple of years ago, we hosted a mom-daughter online event with True Girl, my ministry for tweens and their moms. And we got more gratitude emails and texts and DMs on that single event from moms about how our conversation brought clarity to navigating friendships. So let's see if we can grab more of that clarity today. Hello, Kelly. I am so glad to have you here today.
Hey, Dannah. Thanks for having me. And I'm so happy to be talking about this topic. And I was going to chime in and say we actually have a 5th kid now. So,
yes.
Little update to that bio there. Baby number 5 is in the Needham home. He's 3 years old.
3 years old. I should have known that because I remember speaking at a conference, the Truman or Revive conference, one of them.
Revive 2020,
yes.
22, I think. Yep.
I remember. You make a very cute pregnant woman.
Thank you. It's always a compliment I will receive. You never feel very cute, but
you never do, but often you are.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Let's just start with this. Why are women's and girls' friendships so very complicated?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that we don't get a lot of training around friendship. We don't get a lot of teaching, help, clarity about how to do it well. It's almost more just like, go be friends, go make friends. It's like, but how? And what is a good friend? And what do I do when conflict arises? And so there's not actually a lot of education around friendship beyond just saying you need it. So that's one reason that I think we have some confusion. I mean, even if you just compare it to the teaching we have on marriage and family, we get more clarity about those relationships than we do about friendship.
I feel like that's a eureka moment for me. I feel like, of course, like we have so much discipleship information on all the relationships, but we really don't hear a lot about friendship.
Right. We don't. Besides, again, just you need it. And so we all go try to build it. And we're kind of going, what tools do I need? And how do I handle this or that issue? So that's one reason. And then I would say another reason is our culture's way of practicing friendship is changing a lot. And so it's adding in new dynamics that, again, without a lot of education around it, just kind of stir the pot of confusion. As the family unit is culturally somewhat breaking down, there's a lot of marriage changeover. A lot of people culturally want different sexual partners and things like that. Friendship is actually becoming something our culture is looking to for a sense of family and belonging. And in a new way, in a more weighted way. And so it's actually getting more weight, more importance culturally, in my opinion. I mean, think about our sitcoms that we all are gravitating toward. They're less family-based sitcoms and they're more friend group-based sitcoms. And so this kind of new way the culture around us is thinking about friendship combined with a lack of discipleship around friendship in the church and how to practice it creates a kind of a weird situation for us. We know we need friends to make it through life, but we're kind of going in blind.
Yeah.
And dealing with a lot of problems along the way.
That's a beautiful point. Something I've never really considered. Obviously, the other thing that's culturally shifting is that our friends we're experiencing those relationships a lot of times through screens. How do you think that's impacting us as women?
It's impacting us a ton. That's another great point, because it's allowing us to build friendship communities a la carte. What friends do I want? We can kind of pick and choose. If I asked my mom when I was researching for my book about her friendships, and a lot of ways it was a lot simpler, because when you left high school and she went to nursing school, you literally had to say goodbye to those friends and then go build new friendships, because it was very difficult to keep in touch with them.
Yep.
And I think in-person, close proximity friendship is the kind we actually need to thrive. But we no longer are limited by that anymore because of our technology. I can choose to build a little friend group around the friends I feel safest around, I like the best, that I give me the best social standing, and I can kind of plug them into my life. But that's actually not, that might feel like a safe option of friendship. It's not actually best for us. But that's just opened up the door for us to practice friendship in a lot of different ways than we never have before. And it means now we have to make new decisions. Like if I am going to prioritize local friendship, because of my limitations as a human, I now have to choose to say no to keeping in touch with my friends from high school, because I just don't have time. And that's a choice my mom didn't have to make. It was made for her by technology and where it was at. Now I have a new decision I have to make about friendship, and that can feel overwhelming.
You know what? Overwhelming is the word I was just thinking of, because I feel like we're not capable of managing the volume of friendships that our screens are telling us we can handle. Is that true?
We can't. 100%. That's true. I mean, if you were to try and keep a deep and meaningful friendship with every person that you met and felt like a connection with, then that would be your full-time job.
Wow.
Right? That's what we would do. Be like, how many coffees can I squeeze in? And some of us are living that way, going, I'm behind. I need to catch up with these dozen friends. But that to me just leads us as Christians toward a lot of mission drift. It's like, well, Jesus gave us a mission, and it wasn't just to like be besties with every person we've ever met. Yep. And if you're in Christ, that's actually been purchased for you already. That is coming for you. But we actually have a mission that's been given to us for now. And the way that we see friendships modeled in the scriptures is they exist to empower that mission and to sustain that mission, not to detract from it.
So good. You know, we can't fix it all, but we've got a few minutes here where we can do some friendship discipling. So let me ask you, what is a biblical definition of friendship? How should we be thinking about it?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the Bible's viewpoint of friendship is it's less concerned with what type of friendships we have, and it's more concerned with what kind of friend we are. Even when I came to the scriptures for this book in research, that was one of my questions. If I, after reading through the Bible with this lens on, what would be the Bible's definition of friendship? I would say this. The Bible looks at you and me and says to us, what kind of friend do you want? Think about that for a second. What kind of friend do you want, Kelly? Do you want Dannah? Great. Yeah. Now go be that friend to the people who are physically nearby you today.
I love it.
That's like the basic MO of the scriptures. And that shouldn't be new news to us, because we see Jesus say that, right? Yeah. We are called to love God as we love ourselves, and then love our neighbor or love God with heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then love our neighbor as ourself. Right. And I just don't see a lot of emphasis given in the scriptures to go and curate this particular group of friends. Yeah, I do see an emphasis on make sure you're known, make sure you are encouraging one another daily. There's a lot of corporate commands given to local bodies of believers. And so there are things you need from other Christians. But on a friendship level, it's often telling us to go think about what kind of friend you are and go focus on that. And you won't be in short supply of friendship when you do that.
I think that was one of the really big takeaways, that we got a lot of messages from moms that they were like, my daughter needed to hear that, because she was looking at friendship as a very self-focused activity. And she began to see that friendship was something that she could, where she could serve, where she could be a friend, where she could serve others. And so let's see there was another one that we got a lot of messages on that moms were like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see if we get to that. what would you say in those relationships are maybe a sign that it's a healthy biblical friendship?
Yeah. A healthy friendship is going to be one that is both emotionally close without being, while still being open-handed. What I mean is friendship should deepen our emotional connectedness with each other. That's normative and good. I should be getting to know people in a way that I genuinely care about them and they genuinely care about me. And so we should be emotionally invested in each other's lives. That's actually a good sign. But when that's paired with open-handedness, meaning I'm not looking to my friends for a source of significance or stability, things that only God can give me. And because I'm rooted in my relationship with God and those things, I can actually love my friends. I can be emotionally close with them and hold them open-handed, which means if a new friend comes into our mix, I'm not thrown off. I can welcome that new friend.
Yes.
I don't feel jealous or protective of my friends. I feel like I can share them. And if the Lord shifts their mission, my friend moves because that's what the Lord has for her life. I can send her off with genuine joy and blessing, even if it's mingled with some tears because I will miss her, but I'm open-handed. Yeah. And so to me, when there's emotional depth and open-handedness, like that's for me, usually a good sign that that friendship is in a healthy place.
Is it possible to be in that kind of a healthy place and to identify a BFF, or do you think that starts to not be healthy?
Yeah. I have interesting thoughts about the BFF situation because we all define it differently. And so I want to always be careful to not create a law or a rule where the Bible doesn't make one. And so I don't think the Bible speaks explicitly to it. And I think people find themselves in situations where there really is one other person that they can be close with. And I think about people like Jonathan and David, or a friend of mine who went on a 2-year mission situation where she really only had one other believer around her to talk to. It's like, she's my best friend. It's like, yeah, she's like my only friend right now. And that's just because of the circumstances. Yeah. But again, let's talk culturally. The culture has created a category of best friends as distinct from general friends that I think is full of idolatry and often sin. So I want to just distinguish that out to say, if you're listening to this and saying, well, I've always just called my oldest friend my best friend, like we've known each other since childhood. If that's what you mean by that, I think that's totally fine. But if what you mean by best friend is this friend is of a different class and category, and we belong to each other in such a tight-knit way that we won't ever share our friendship with anybody because it's just for us. No one's allowed in this circle. It's exclusive. It's something you feel a tinge of jealousy toward. And like to me, that is a worldly best friendship model that actually the Bible doesn't have a category for. And that type of best friendship, I think, is problematic, and for Christians is not a proper way to do friendship.
I feel like that just healed my heart a little. And I'll tell you why. I have never had a best friend.
Yeah.
I have never, I've looked at best friendships, and I mean, I can remember in high school thinking, I'm the third wheel. Those two are closer than I am. And I've never really lost that in the sense of sort of pining for it. I think maybe because the world said you're supposed to have a best friend. But I still, because of my mission, because of what the Lord's called me to in my life, I don't even get to go out for a lot of girl lunches and things like that. And it's been like that my whole life because I've always been on mission. And my mission is to declare the gospel to girls and women, and to love my family in a way that there's integrity in how I do that, because they're my first calling. And so I've always felt like, oh, because I've chosen that for my life, I've not ever had a best friend. Like, I can't be the only one that feels that way.
You're 100% not. I get this question all the time when I teach on friendship. And I'm in the same boat with you, Dannah. I mean, when I was in high school, I had friends in many different groups. And so it was actually stressful. One time I invited all my friends over to my house for a pool party. And I just remember thinking, I'm never going to do that again. Because I had friends from orchestra and friends from church, and I had friends from school, and they didn't know each other.
Yeah.
But I didn't have one singular best friend and one singular group of people. I think there's a longing in all of us to have that best friend or even to have that group of friends. But most people don't have that. There's actually a news article that came out, I think through The Atlantic recently, that called it the friend group fallacy, that we all want like this group of friends, like in shows like Friends or in The Office or whatever. Like I want this stable group, but it's actually not the norm. And for me, this is also freeing to go. The Bible doesn't actually demand for me that I have a best friend. I do need friends, but those get shifted season by season for me. I do have a group of close friends I trust, but they're not even close with each other. You know what I mean? So that's shifted for me over years of time too.
That's cool. That makes me feel so not alone. You know, it makes me wonder, generally I find that when I have a longing for something in this world, it's really because God is trying to show me a spiritual need. So is it possible that my longing to have a best friend, which I've never had, might be something that's pointing to a need I have in Christ?
I think it is. I think most of us want that best friendship relationship for, it's going to be different for all of us, but it feels stable, right? Somebody who's never going to leave me. Like they're my best friend, right? They're always there for me. Someone that gives us meaning. Because I have this person in my life, I'm always going to feel seen and known, like and important to somebody because I know I'm somebody's best friend. It's comfort. They're always going to be there for me. I always have that person to call at the end of the night. And everything I've just named are things that no one singular human can actually provide for you. Right. I mean, even marriage, as we're talking about it, is like, we sometimes look to marriage for that. Somebody who I'll matter to and who I can always talk to and who'll be there for me. It's like, well, that doesn't exist in marriage. It can never satisfy the deep aches that we have. Only God can provide for us those deep soul aches. But the ache that we have is not wrong. And I always want to protect women who feel those things very deeply to go, it's not wrong that you have those deep longings. Yeah. Don't demonize the longing. You just need to redirect it and put it in the right place, that no human will do that for you. And it's actually when those needs get met from the Lord that you can actually enter into your friendships with a sense of generosity to serve them and love them and give to them instead of be trying to always get things from them.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a time, one of my girls was living in a new town as a young adult, and she was really lonely. So I'm an author. I can work from anywhere. I was like, Fix-It Mom is going to just go live in her apartment while she goes to work all day. I will work on my books and write, and I will fix this friendship problem. And I remember where I was when I thought that. I was weeding one of my flower beds, and I'm standing there just like thinking, I'm going to fix this, and I'm pulling out the weeds, and I felt like, it's not like I heard a voice. It was just an impression from the Lord that if I tried to fix her friendship problem, I was going to get in the way of her opportunity to develop friendship with him.
That's right.
And I was like, so I cried while I weeded, and I was just like, because I feel like as moms, we want our girls to feel loved and accepted. That's a really hard area for us. But I watched the Lord develop friendship in that daughter's life that summer. And I don't know that would have happened if I had gotten in there and fixed it.
That's so good.
So what are some signs of unhealthy relationships? How do we know that, these relationships aren't the kind that you're talking about, that there's open-handedness and I'm serving them, and there's like, how do I know when it's off course?
Yeah. Well, I generally put the unhealthy signs into 3 different buckets. One being whenever it becomes a counterfeit Jesus for us, meaning we are looking to our friendships for godlike things that only Jesus can be for us. And we've talked about some of those, the significant stability, and that usually comes with a lot of a heart that's showing up with a lot of need and insecurity, and we're just running either from friend to friend in our heart or in our actions to try and get these things. Another category these show up is in a very self-centered drive for friendship, that when we think about friends in our life or friendship, the only thing we're thinking about is what we're not getting. Yeah, they didn't call me. No one invited me to that. Why didn't this happen? And all of our issues around friendship revolve in what I'm not getting. We're not thinking at all about what we're giving. And so that's another one. And then a last category would be something that falls for me in the category of when friendship begins to mimic the institution of marriage. What I mean is when it becomes that unhealthy, worldly BFF model, which really is a type of mimicking marriage. It's beginning to create exclusivity and ownership in a two people tied together type of situation. And though we might not have any sexuality in it at all, those are things that the Bible only actually permits within the institution of marriage. You and me only, and ownership, that we belong together and we operate as a unit. And so usually how people experience that type of unhealth is jealousy, when that best friend starts to make a new friend and we feel very protective of that and like we want to stop it. Or that friend enters a new season of life. We were both single and then one of them got married. We both had no kids, then one had a kid or a new job. Something that we perceive will take them away from us is a sign that we're either idolizing that friend, they're becoming something only Jesus should be, or we've created a unique bond with them that actually isn't healthy for us. There's more we could say, but those are flags for my own heart that I think all of us experience the temptation toward those things. Yeah. And we have to see them as warning signs.
I feel like I want to talk about that enmeshment factor because so that whole idea of ownership, like it's been around for as long as I've, little girl, I can remember BFF talk, right? But it used to be, it was just drama. There was the jealousy. There was the ownership. There was the, pushing other people out because you were getting too close to this friend kind of thing like that. But now I feel like all the cultural messages that are happening, sometimes that is creating a lie in the heart of a woman that maybe she's bi or maybe she's gay. And I feel like not that temptation doesn't exist like without any help sometimes, right? But I feel like there is almost like if you do have that relationship that's close, the culture is telling you, oh, that is because. Is it possible that's happening in some relationships and some women are ending up in sexual or romantic friendships when that would not have been the case if the cultural messages and this enmeshment hadn't happened together?
I would say 100% that is correct. I've been, from my research and my interviews, which I've interviewed dozens and dozens of women who have told me their stories, where a friendship started out very innocently in the sense that there was no awareness of anything being off or awry, but they ended up in a very close friendship with one other person. That exclusivity is really what is the breeding ground for anything romantic or sexualized, is the one-on-one exclusivity. That when that began to be cultivated and began to meet very human needs, but that are meant to be met in God, but they began to meet needs there, there was no red flags for a lot of these women at that moment because the activity of their friendship was very spiritual usually. We're praying together. We're leading events together. We're going on runs together. We're not doing anything wrong. The warning sign at that point would have been that jealousy, those little fears we have of anything getting in the way. But as soon as you form a type of idolatrous bond with somebody, Romans 1 tells us it distorts our sexuality. Wow. And that is something that can happen to anyone. And so a lot of women hear me say this and say, well, that has to do with how you're wired or how you're born. I'm like, nope, biblically, it has to do with idolatry. Idolatry precedes the distorted sexuality. And that is something all of us could stumble into if we're not cautious in our own hearts. And it happens a lot in female friendship, largely because I think we're just not taught about it and we're not warned about it. And the culture, like you said, is modeling not only that type of friendship as normative, but then saying, if you'd rather share your soul with your best friend than your husband, then maybe you should start to wonder, maybe you're a lesbian. It's like now you've inserted that lie. And it really can go in a dark path, especially if a woman knows no one they could share with who wouldn't look at her like she's crazy. And so then it becomes a secret. And then it becomes a really big problem. And that's a very, very common story. So if anyone's listening going, I've never heard someone say that before, I'm just saying, I wrote about it in 2014 and got hundreds of messages from women who had lived that life story in secret and never told someone.
Wow. Well, I've had a front row seat to see women live that story. Mm-hmm. And so what advice would you have for someone who's found themselves in that space? And I guess that she could be in one of two places. One, she's in a place where her husband is like, I'm not comfortable with what's happening in that friendship because I've had that multiple times. Or she's a single person, single woman, and she's starting to believe the lie that, oh, maybe this is because I'm bi, maybe I'm a lesbian, and that's why there's so much fulfillment here and a romantic relationship hasn't happened in my life. I'm going to say that in either of those cases, there's some red flags. What should she do?
Right. One of the best things that you can do is tell someone else who is not your best friend. Not the mistake most people make is they feel so close to that friend that they'll go back to that friend and say, hey, I think our friendship is unhealthy. And that often makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because what actually needs to happen is a separateness. You need to operate as two individuals before God, not a unit. And so part of what the invitation is to go to God and go to the community of believers that he's provided you through your local church, hopefully, if you have that, and start to make it known. Hey, I love this person in my life. This woman in my life is so dear to me, but I think something might be off here. Can I talk to you about it and get your insight in it? So inviting another voice in is really important at some point, as soon as the red flags show up, because it begins to bring it into the light. It begins to air it out. Sin grows in darkness and in secret spaces. And so to welcome another voice in is really important, and to take it seriously. I think the biggest thing that hinders women from doing that is this. They think, if I tell someone, I will lose this friendship with this woman that I feel really close to. And I'm terrified. I'm terrified of that being lost. And I would say, if you feel terrified of that being lost, even more so, you need to talk to somebody.
Right.
Because that's actually a signal for you that that woman has become something only God can be. And the longer you persist in it, the more likely it is you'll actually lose the friendship for good.
Yeah.
If you want to preserve it, which I think God is after, preservation of relationship, bring someone in and run quickly there. It's like any type of temptation. We flee, run away, get help immediately.
Okay, so flee, get help. Let's talk about that. Is there ever the potential that this friendship does have to be ended?
I think there is the potential of that, because the Bible encourages us toward a prioritization of our relationship with God above each other. Meaning, if anything causes us to stumble into sin, we have permission from the Lord to say, I can't take part in that.
Yep.
And that applies in a lot of different circumstances and relationships. But when it comes to friendship, if your friendship is consistently drawing you into sin, then it is time to end it, because your friendship with God is actually more important, more significant. And he has told you, this is your first command, not your second. We can't get them mixed up. And it means, in that case, you're still being a good friend to that woman just from afar. I like to just reframe it for people. You might feel like I'm ending a friendship, but the truest form of friendship is to want what's best for you, even if it's at expense to me of something, that I'm dealing with. And so if we're both sinning in our friendship, maybe we need to separate and go, I'm going to be your friend by sending you out to build healthy relationships over there, and I'll build healthy relationships over here, and I'll pray for you as the Lord brings you to mind. But if we keep stumbling into sin together, it's not actually healthy. It's not good friendship for us to stay in it that way.
Yep, exactly. You have two girls. How old are your girls now?
15 and 13.
15 and 13. Do you talk to them about this phenomenon of I guess let's just call it enmeshment?
Yeah, I do actually. I talk about warning signs with them, and there are certain friends they've made at school and at church who I perceive from afar actually are trying to cultivate that with my daughters. And while I won't tell them, I'm never going to tell them to stay away from somebody. It's like, I want you to be hopefully a good influence in them, but I will warn them and say, hey, that friend who's always grabbing your hand and being extra physical with you, but you actually don't know each other really well.
Yeah.
That's like an accelerating of intimacy that isn't actually appropriate in friendship. Physical affection is great, but usually should go at the pace of your actual length of time. I grab the arm of my friends who I've known for 20 years, not the friend I met yesterday, right? So I'll warn them about those things. Or a friend who's always texting them or reaching out to them and demanding that they counsel or comfort them or meet their need in some way. I'll say, hey, that's actually not your responsibility. Only the Lord can do that. And let's be careful of this. And I'll roll the tape forward sometimes and say, friendships like this can turn out this way. And we want to continue to care for those around us while also doing what real friendship is, which is putting our hearts toward the Lord and their hearts toward the Lord to get our deepest needs met.
That's good.
And sometimes for my daughters, that means, hey, how is your friendship with God? And if your friendship with God feels stale, uninteresting, not deep, this is going to be an even greater temptation for you to go to these friendships for that. And so go deep with the Lord, and that's the best protection that you have.
That's the best protection for everything, isn't it?
That's right.
So here's the topic that we got the most emails about when you did a friendship workshop online with us for 8 to 12-year-old girls and their moms, and it was boundaries. Is it ever appropriate to have boundaries in a relationship that you think is getting unhealthy for whatever reason?
Yes, absolutely. Boundaries are, I think, important part of a lot of our relationships. And really all that a boundary is saying, I can't or I won't. I can't do that or I won't do that. And those statements of I can't, I won't are part of every Christian's life. If you're going to walk in holiness, you're having to say that a lot because we live in a world that is just not going God's way. So in a friendship, when something begins to be something that we can't do or we won't do for one reason or another, we have to be able to speak up about that. And what I have observed is that we all tend to fall into a couple of different categories of misuse of boundaries. Either we don't know how to speak up about them and say them. We are avoidant of that. And so we kind of let our boundary walls down. And sometimes we're the friend who's pushing over those boundaries of other people because we just want to get what we want. And so I've actually had a moment with one of my daughters and one of her good friends that I just witnessed something happening in my backyard while they were playing together. They were younger, probably 12. And I got a chance to sit with them and tell my daughter, hey, I know that you don't like this. Like whatever game it was, it's not actually your favorite. And you need to sometimes speak up and say, I don't like this. I'd prefer to do something else. And to her friend, I said, even when she does say that, I've noticed you don't listen and you push past that. And friendship has to work. Friendship only works when we're both honest. Ephesians 4:25 is a great place to land this principle. It says, because we're members of one another, we speak the truth and we put aside falsehood. And so if you recognize a boundary in your heart, either I'm uncomfortable with this, I can't do it, I won't do it, the Bible calls you to be honest about that, to speak truthfully, to say that does bother me. And it does ask us to honor those things in other people. And so it's good to sometimes identify in ourselves and in our children, where do they tend to err? Do they tend to diminish their own internal boundaries that they feel instinctively? Do they tend to ignore them and not speak up about them? Let me help strengthen that in them. Or do they tend to push those over? They're very good about their boundaries. Probably they need to be a little more deferential to others and they need to be sensitive to others where that line is for other people. And it might change based on each relationship, but it's just good for all of us. I think that's part of healthy friendship, speaking the truth in love.
I love that you use that scripture verse because it makes something in my life make sense. I used to be really afraid when I needed to communicate a boundary to someone. And then I found that when I did it, I felt peace. It wasn't worse. It was better. I'm still a little bit gun shy when I have to communicate a boundary. I'm just I'm not a confrontational person naturally. But I found that if I just objectively say, no, I can't do that, or I'm just not really comfortable with this, I feel peace. And That's because it's biblical.
That's right.
The book is Friendish, and the subtitle is Reclaiming Real Friendship in a Culture of Confusion. It's by my friend Kelly Needham. And if this conversation today made you want to get a copy, I'm not surprised because I love it. It's one of my favorite books to recommend. Kelly, before we let you go, it's Freedom Friday on Pure Freedom Podcast. We always like to just tell a story of how abiding in God's word has enabled us to know the truth and be set free by it. Can you think of something a story where God has set you free? Let me say the words. God has set you free through his word.
Yeah. Actually, what comes to mind has to do with freedom. Galatians chapter 5, that great chapter that starts with it's for freedom that you've been set free. Later, he says in verse 16, so this is Galatians 5:16, but I say, walk by the Spirit and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. And for me who grew up in church and learned how to be a good Christian from an early age, as I have grown up, all of those just fleshy things that are in me still, I have always wanted to find, where is the rule book to put this sin to death in me? What do I need to do to fight this sin off? And I love the simplicity of this verse in Galatians that he says, if you don't want to walk in the flesh, it's really simple. Just walk by the Spirit. That there is an invitation to hourly, and for me, often minute by minute, dependence on the Spirit. And that's actually freedom. It's not that I'm going to find the next cool trick to deal with my anger with my kids, or, the next great system of habits to deal with my tendency to eat when I'm stressed. It's like, not that there's not benefit in those things, but it's been such a freeing truth for me to, in those moments of temptation or battling sins or feeling discouraged, to go, you know what? My only job is hour by hour, Lord, you've put your Spirit in me. You've given me your righteousness, and I need your help now. So here's the temptation. Help me walk with you right now. And I just have to pray that sometimes every 5 minutes, depending on the day.
Yep.
But it's simple.
Yep.
And that's what's felt really freeing to me lately in this season.
I love that. Thank you for being with me here today, Kelly. I think I consider you a friend.
I consider you a friend, Dannah. And I'm so thankful to get to talk with you about such an important topic, and just love the like-mindedness that we have about these types of things that matter in the hearts of women.
Amen. Thank you. Well, friend, even your friendships need to be marked by freedom, or they do become a place of bondage. I hope you were encouraged and enlightened by my conversation with Kelly today. And before you go, I'd like to send you a new magazine that I wrote along with help from my friends. See what I did there? At Moody Publishers. The title is Walking in Purity. It's a magazine for moms and mentors to help you navigate today's complexities in the conversation about sex and gender. Some of the articles include Healing the Purity Conversation. Mom, did you wait? How virgin shaming silences women. And I write in there about the history of the purity movement and why I believe we need to protect and defend the word purity, because it's a biblical word, even as we critically analyze, just like the Bereans, what we got right and what we got wrong as we as a church taught about sex. Now, you can get your copy of Walking in Purity this month. It's our thank you gift for making a donation of any amount at Pure Freedom. And your gift makes it possible for us to continue outreaches to tweens and teens, keeping their friendships and relationships governed by the truth of God's word. And that includes our True Girl ministry, which includes live events for moms and tweens. We're going to be on tour this fall. A free podcast called True Girl for your tween girls, and the True Girl subscription box. Every 60 days, we deliver mom-daughter discipleship tools right to your front door. Right now, we're shipping the Peace Box, which is based on my best-selling book, Lies Girls Believe in the Truth That Sets Them Free. It contains tools to help your 7 to 12-year-old govern her emotions. So if she needs help with that, learn more at mytruegirl.com. Next week, I want to talk about that word purity. I'm going to share 3 misconceptions that really have hurt us deeply. And I'm going to admit that sexual integrity is a safer term, but I'd also like to make a case for why we cannot and must not just stop using this word that's become so controversial. Plus, I'll answer some of the hardest questions I've been getting about the topic of sex and gender since the re-release of my book And the Bride Wore White just a few weeks ago.